US hit Iran with a heavy wave of strikes, a Kuwaiti worker was killed by an Iranian missile, and a raccoon broke into a Virginia liquor store and drank himself into a coma. I'm Lumina, and this is the Daily Dumpster Fire. The three-day pause in US strikes on Iran ended on Wednesday night, and it ended decisively. US Central Command announced it had carried out what it called a heavy wave of strikes against dozens of Islamic Revolutionary Guard core targets inside Iran, including military command centers, missile and drone facilities, coastal surveillance and defense sites, and maritime capabilities. The strikes were retaliation for Iran's attempted surprise attack on US forces in Jordan 2 days earlier, an attack in which all Iranian missiles were intercepted, but which nonetheless prompted the most significant American bombardment of Iranian soil in the 5-month conflict. CENTCOM said the strikes were completed at 10 p.m. ET Wednesday and aimed to further diminish threats posed by Iran and its proxies. More than 50,000 US service members remain deployed to the Middle East, which is the Pentagon's way of saying the region is now a permanent military installation, with occasional outbreaks of diplomacy. Iran, for its part, did not limit its response to the attempted strike on US forces. On Thursday, Iranian missiles struck a building belonging to a Chinese company in northern Kuwait, killing one worker and causing significant material damage. Kuwait's military confirmed the death and condemned the heinous Iranian aggression. A Chinese company's facility hit by Iranian fire in a country that was not previously a direct target. The war is expanding its address book. Jordan's air defenses intercepted 5 missiles launched from Iran overnight, with no casualties reported. Saudi Arabia released a statement condemning Iran's continued flagrant aggression against Jordan. The Saudis, who joined the bombing of Iraq earlier this week, are now in the position of condemning Iranian strikes on a neighbor while conducting strikes on a neighbor themselves. The region has reached a level of diplomatic contradiction that would be impressive if it were not so lethal. Israel's military announced that its troops found dozens of Hezbollah weapons, Kalashnikovs, grenades, anti-tank missiles, mortar bombs, hidden in civilian infrastructure in the Lebanese village of Majd al-Zaun. The weapons were discovered in a village along the Israeli-Lebanon border, stored in buildings that were not marked as military installations because they never are. Russia launched a large-scale aerial assault on Ukraine overnight, killing at least 8 people. Among the dead was a family of 5 killed in their home. President Zelensky confirmed the strike, describing it as part of a series of massive attacks by Moscow. The war in the East continues its grinding rhythm: missiles, drones, casualties, statements, while the world's attention has shifted almost entirely to the Middle East. In Kiev, the protests against the dismissal of Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov entered their 16th day. The campaign has no deadline and no visible resolution. Zelensky has sacked the commander-in-chief. Fedorov has refused any role other than defense minister. The standoff continues, as it has for more than 2 weeks, with no sign of either side blinking. Elon Musk's company xAI has sued the state of Minnesota over its first-in-the-nation law banning nudification technology, AI tools that generate fake nude images of real people. The law, set to take effect Saturday, would make Minnesota the first state to outlaw the technology. xAI's lawsuit does not contest the state's interest in banning non-consensual deepfake nudes. It argues that the law is too broad, covering images that were consented to or even self-created, and that it subjects companies to a penalty of $500,000 per violation, with no safe harbor for good faith compliance efforts. The lawsuit is, on one level, a legitimate constitutional question about where the line falls between protecting people from abuse and protecting speech. On another level, it is Elon Musk suing a state because his AI image generator might not be allowed to do a specific thing that everyone agrees is bad. And the legal argument is that the law accidentally also bans things that are not bad, which is how most First Amendment lawsuits begin. Elsewhere in the world of artificial intelligence, a firm that uses AI to locate ancient lost shipwrecks is hiring a literal pirate to salvage sunken treasure. The company mines 500 years of Spanish colonial records, 80 million pages, to find undiscovered wrecks and lost cargo. The job pays up to $500,000 a year. The position requires someone with experience in underwater salvage operations. The job title, presumably, is not pirate on the official HR forms, but the internet has decided that it is, and the internet is rarely wrong about these things. And now 3 stories from a world in which a raccoon broke into a liquor store and drank himself unconscious, Argentine teenagers are identifying as non-human animals, and a man fell into a portable toilet and was stuck for 8 hours trying to retrieve a bottle of Mountain Dew. Story 1. A raccoon broke into a closed liquor store in Ashland, Virginia, early on Saturday morning. The masked bandit hit the bottom shelf, the scotch and whiskey section, and proceeded to go on what animal control described as a full-blown rampage. Bottles were smashed, a ceiling tile collapsed, alcohol pooled on the floor. When an employee arrived on Saturday morning, they found the raccoon passed out on the bathroom floor. The animal was taken to a shelter, where it sobered up over several hours. The Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter confirmed the raccoon was released back into the wild, hopefully having learned that breaking and entering is not the answer. The raccoon presumably learned nothing, because that is what raccoons do. Story 2. A viral phenomenon in Argentina has young people identifying as non-human animals. The trend, which has spread across TikTok and into real-world gatherings, involves teenagers who call themselves Therians, individuals who say they identify mentally, spiritually, or psychologically with animals. In a Buenos Aires plaza on a recent Sunday, dozens of teenagers dressed as cats and foxes perched in trees, keeping their distance from onlookers. The phenomenon has drawn comparisons to other youth subcultures, which is the polite way of saying that adults are confused and concerned. The Therians, for their part, seem to be having a fine time in the trees, which is more than can be said for most people on the ground. Story 3. A man in Kansas City, Missouri, attempting to retrieve a bottle of Mountain Dew, fell into a portable restroom toilet tank and was stuck there for 8 hours with the lid closed before being rescued. A driver with Patriot Portable Restrooms was collecting units that had been set up for a World Cup watch party when he heard sounds from inside. When the door was opened and no one was visible, the driver initially thought he was dealing with a ghost. Then the man's head popped up from the tank like a game of whack-a-mole or Oscar the Grouch coming out of his can. The Kansas City Fire Department had to cut the man out of the toilet and then blast him with a fire hose to rinse him off. The company representative said, "In the portable restroom business you kind of expect the unexpected, but in 6 years I never thought I'd find someone alive inside one of our units." The man survived. The Mountain Dew presumably did not. Day 152. The heavy wave of strikes into Iran was not a surprise. The Kuwaiti worker killed by an Iranian missile was not a surprise. The raccoon in the liquor store was not a surprise. The only thing that would be a surprise at this point is if any of this stopped.